This story took place so long ago that many details are a bit hazy. It certainly doesn't feel like it happened just yesterday. I'll do my best to recall what I can. It was the last day of 4th grade, which was the final year at our elementary school. Students had to be picked up by their parents. Only 5th graders could walk home alone. My mom always picked me up on the last day, and I had a playdate planned with my friend Dennis to celebrate. Although he wasn't in my class that year, we had been friends since kindergarten. After school, we lined up and walked to the exit, where we waited by our teacher, Miss Blue. As I scanned the crowd for Dennis's dad, I suddenly heard someone calling my name. "Tommy." I turned to see a man waving at me. He introduced himself as Dennis's uncle and said he was there to pick me up. I told Miss Blue, pointing him out, and she dismissed me. As we moved through the crowd, I noticed that this man spoke rapidly and had a slight stutter. He walked quickly, making it hard for me to keep up with my backpack. He explained that Dennis's dad was working late and that he was driving me home. It was only then that I realized something was off. Where was Dennis? The man noticed my confusion and said Dennis was already at home. I was shy around adults I didn't know and didn't speak up, but I felt increasingly uneasy. During the drive, he kept talking, asking me questions about school and sports. It felt like we were driving for much longer than it should have taken. When we arrived at a house that seemed normal enough, he led me inside and locked the door behind us. It was dark inside, and I quickly noticed the curtains were all drawn. The only light came from a dim lamp in the corner. I asked, "Where's Dennis?" And he became jittery. He claimed Dennis was downstairs playing video games and told me to wait. When he disappeared into another room, my heart raced. I quietly tried to open the locked door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I realized how trapped I felt. I found a phone in the kitchen and managed to dial 911, whispering, "Please come to this house. I've been kidnapped." I hid the phone under a towel, hoping they would stay on the line. Just then, I heard the man's footsteps coming back upstairs. He called my name, saying Dennis was down there too. When I didn't respond, he came up and asked if I was okay. I felt sick with fear and regretted not being wiser. I asked if I could leave, and his friendly facade faded. He moved closer and grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the basement. I screamed and cried, and he shouted back, "I'll let you go if you behave." I reluctantly went down the stairs, and halfway down I heard the door slam shut and lock behind me. The basement was dark and empty, lit only by a bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. I could hear everything upstairs, including his footsteps. Suddenly I heard the doorbell ring multiple times, followed by banging. It was the police. I screamed for help as loudly as I could. A police officer burst through the door, grabbed me, and pulled me outside, where several squad cars awaited. I had to recount everything to the officers as they brought the man out in handcuffs. When my parents arrived, my mom was in tears. There had already been a panic at the school when Dennis's dad realized something was wrong. The man was an associate of Dennis's father and had taken advantage of the situation. To this day, I'm not sure how he recognized me. My mom took me to counseling for months afterward, and my parents were furious that Miss Blue hadn't verified who was picking me up. If I hadn't thought to call the police, I truly believe I wouldn't be here today. That was 17 years ago, and I often wonder if that man is out of prison now. Fast forward to my junior year of high school. It was the last day of school, and many students chose to leave early. My friends and I decided to skip out after lunch. It was a stormy day, and our original plan to hit the beach was canceled. Instead, we planned to explore an abandoned elementary school that had been closed for a decade and was set to be torn down soon. We figured there wouldn't be anyone around, especially on such a gloomy day. Our friend Eddie drove us there. The school was tucked away in a neighborhood, and the back parking lot was hidden behind overgrown bushes. It was the perfect spot for a clandestine adventure. Eddie had a baseball bat in his trunk, which he used to break a window to get us in. I was nervous, worried that someone might hear the noise, but we quickly climbed inside. We found ourselves in a 4th or 5th grade classroom, surrounded by dusty desks and faded decorations. The storm outside added to the eerie atmosphere as we ventured through the dark hallways, using our phone flashlights to guide us. At one point, a sound echoed through the halls, causing us to freeze and turn off our lights. After a moment of silence, we convinced ourselves it was nothing and continued exploring. As we approached a corner, I glanced back and noticed something unusual at the doorway of another classroom. When we shone our lights toward it, whatever it was vanished inside. Panicking, we bolted down the hall and ducked into a nearby kindergarten classroom. We shut the door and held our breath. Suddenly, the door creaked open, but we saw no one. A shape appeared at the doorway, a head peering in at us. My heart raced. Eddie, feeling bold, handed me the bat as he fumbled with a window, trying to get it open. He crawled out first, followed by the others. I hesitated, glancing back at the figure before scrambling through the window. We ran to Eddie's car and sped away, never looking back. The building was torn down later that year, turned into a park, and we never got in trouble for our adventure. To this day, I still wonder who that figure was, whether it was a worker or something more sinister. During my freshman year of college, I took a challenging chemistry class. I sat at a middle table next to a guy named Zach. He was awkward and had an unkempt appearance, but he excelled in chemistry and was helpful. Over the semester, he started doing my homework and let me cheat on tests. On the last day of class, Zach asked me out on a date. I felt no attraction, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I lied about going to Miami for a couple of weeks. He asked what about when I returned, and I casually said I might be around. After class, I headed home. Later that night, while out with friends, I received a text from Zach asking when I was going to Miami. I panicked. He shouldn't have known that wasn't true. I ignored him, but he sent another message saying, "You're going to ignore me now that you don't need me anymore, right?" Feeling uneasy, I didn't respond. That night around 1 a.m., I heard knocks on my door. It was Zach. I told him to leave, threatening to call my dad. He didn't knock again, but I was terrified. I texted everyone I knew and considered calling the police. The next day, I went to the police station to report him. But when they tried contacting Zach, he vanished. He never returned to class, and I felt relieved but still shaken. That experience showed me what it's like to deal with a stalker, and I'll never forget it.